Prosecutors filed charges after an overnight stabbing in Columbia. What we know about the suspect.
This is a dark day for Maine.
The man suspected of murdering 18 people and injuring dozens more in Maine is still on the loose. The latest developments on the manhunt.
And back here in mid-Missouri, we're going to see quite the temperature swing tomorrow. I'll let you know a few more details.
We have no water. The ponds are dry, creeks are dry.
Record drought conditions are expanding across our state. The hard decisions farmers have to make as reservoirs run dry. This is KOMU 8 News at 10.
Coverage you can count on. KOMU 8 News starts now.
Tonight, the intense manhunt to find 40-year-old Robert Card is still underway in Maine. He's accused of killing at least 18 people and injuring several others last night in 2 mass shootings in Lewiston. You're taking a look at video outside the suspect's home. Police and FBI agents were there earlier this evening. Good evening, everyone. I'm Emily Spain.
And I'm Evie Allen. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. NBC's Chris Pallone has the latest.
As night fell on Lewiston, Maine, agents executed search warrants and searched properties believed to be connected to suspected gunman Robert Card. In Lewiston, Maine, Chris Pallone, NBC News.
Back here in mid-Missouri, a Columbia man now faces murder charges after an overnight stabbing.
KOMU 8's Hunter Walterman is here in the studio to tell us what we know about the suspect. So, Hunter, what did you learn today?
Good evening. Today, prosecutors charged 22-year-old Alan Muslick with first-degree murder and armed criminal action. He's accused of stabbing his father, 62-year-old Zuffer Muslick, with a kitchen knife. The incident happened on Medina Drive in North Columbia, and that's near Cosmo Park. Police were called out just after midnight for a death investigation. Alan Muslick reportedly told police he and his father got into a verbal argument that turned physical. That's when he allegedly admitted he made the decision to kill his father. Court documents say when police arrived, they surrounded the home and told Alan Muslick to come outside. He allegedly had blood on his feet and a large bloody kitchen knife in his shorts. Muslick is currently being held at the Fulton State Hospital, and police say the investigation is ongoing. In the studio, Hunter Walterman, KOMU 8 News.
We have an update to a story we've been following since last month. The mother of a 3-year-old shot and killed in North Columbia filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Larry Brownlee Jr. The mother and Brownlee Jr. tried to rush the child to a nearby fire station when he crashed his car. The child was pronounced dead at the hospital. A grand jury indicted Brownlee with second-degree murder, unlawful possession of a firearm, and armed criminal action. He's currently in jail without bond. Brownlee is set to appear in court next Thursday.
Well, the majority of that rain that we've seen the past several days has continued to push off to our northeast. I'll have a few more details about the rest of your Friday ahead coming up.
I thank you, Kesley. Well, despite the recent rain, Missouri is blanketed by drought. That could bring major crop losses, according to the National Weather Service.
Now farmers are left facing an uncertain future. KOMU 8's Hunter Walterman spoke with farmers who are preparing for the worst.
My family's been in the business for 5 generations.
Ever since high school, Jack Harrison has been auctioning cattle, and he says he's never seen a drought like this.
We have no water. The ponds are dry, creeks are dry.
As Missouri drags into its second year of drought, farmers are feeling the heat.
The drought is forcing some farmers to take drastic action. Here at the Callaway Livestock Center, they auctioned off cattle for 24 hours in a row.
We've been selling cows off just nonstop for 6 months.
Harrison owns the Livestock Center. He's been flooded with calls from farmers running out of hay and water and trying to sell.
Our cattlemen started feeding hay in June this year. We normally start to feed hay in November.
Chris Chin is director of Missouri's Department of Agriculture. She says rural water lines can help.
But in a lot of areas of our state, that is not an option. And so that's where we see our cattle moving to market.
Despite being big business for Harrison,
what we're worried about is going down the road for next year when all these cows that we've had to sell aren't going to be there.
That could mean shortages and higher prices at the grocery store. Farmers hope for more rain. Even if it comes, many may call it quits.
Half the cows that we sold, those people are older, getting retirement age, and they're probably not going to get back into cow business.
Hunter Walterman, KOMU 8 News, Callaway County.
In 2022, the Federal Farm Service Agency distributed over $122 million in drought relief to ranchers. The Missouri Department of Agriculture has a mental health hotline just for farmers. If you or someone you know needs help, you can call or text 833-897-2474.
Along with the drought, the rising cost of food continues to be a burden in the state. The U.S. Department of Agriculture says food prices have grown by about 10% since last year, but few are hit as hard as food banks. Relying primarily on donations, some food banks are struggling to match demand.
People are finding solutions to keep things around longer than an expiration date. So whereas food that would come to us that's nearing an expiration date, we're not seeing as much of it come through.
There's no end in sight for rising prices, but experts say it will slow down next year, leaving many food banks worried about their futures. Here's what's happening right now. The U.S. hit 2 locations in Syria linked to Iran in retaliation for attacks on U.S. personnel. According to the Pentagon, there has been at least 16 attacks targeting U.S. bases and personnel since October 17th. Officials say the retaliation is separate from Israel's war against Hamas.
Rescue teams in Gaza continued searching for survivors today. That follows intense Israeli airstrikes as the war between Israel and Hamas entered its 21st day. The health ministry in Gaza says as of yesterday, more than 750 people were killed in just the past 24 hours of the war. The Associated Press could not independently verify that death toll, but if true, this would mark one of the deadliest days in the war so far. Meanwhile, Israeli military forces staged a raid across the border deep into Gaza earlier today. You can see here video of the action as armored vehicles moved through a border zone. According to the Israeli military, forces attacked multiple Hamas targets before withdrawing. NBC News describes it as the biggest land incursion of the current war. Israel is negotiating the release of more than 200 hostages in Gaza, according to the Israel Defense Forces. Qatar's senior negotiator says any escalation in the conflict could jeopardize those efforts.
Any escalation whatsoever is going to make our job really harder. Any escalation whatsoever. So we're trying to send those messages to our partners and friends. It's very important that everyone participate in this.
Israel has rejected international calls for a ceasefire in that conflict. And as the humanitarian crisis in Gaza intensifies, the State Department says Egypt is ready to process Americans in Gaza for release, but Hamas is blocking their exit.
And one of those Americans, Emily Rauschenberger, grew up here in Colombia. Emily and her family left the U.S. to visit in Gaza in September. Now, her brother says since then, they've moved between 3 to 4 different homes and are currently sheltering in an apartment with more than 20 people. He says he tries to speak with Emily every day, but is worried communication could be cut off at any time.
There was, a 36-hour period last week where we lost complete contact. And again, that's the huge concern with however this situation progresses, that a point will come where there is no communication, won't know.
Joe Rauschenberger said he last spoke to his sister this morning, and he says he's waiting for a ceasefire, peace, or anything that can help bring Emily and her family back home.
Coming up, how magic mushrooms might have led a pilot facing 84 attempted murder charges.
Plus, the latest on the death toll and relief efforts from Hurricane Otis in Mexico. Well, we have an update on the murder case of 4 University of Idaho students in November of last year. A district judge denied a request to dismiss a grand jury indictment for the suspect. Brian Koberger's defense claims the instructions given to the grand jury were misleading. Koberger has pleaded not guilty to 4 counts of first-degree murder. The case is now moving to a higher court. An attorney for the Alaska airline pilot accused of trying to shut off a plane's engines mid-flight is speaking out. Joseph Emerson's defense says the pilot was not intoxicated when he boarded the flight. Court filings indicate Emerson told officers he took magic mushrooms 48 hours before the incident. Emerson faces 84 state charges of attempted murder. The FBI special agent in charge of the case says it's important to realize what could have happened.
I think what's important here is to recognize how serious of an incident this was, the consequences of what could have happened, and the fact is that these are very serious charges.
Alaska Airlines has relieved Emerson of his duties and service indefinitely.
Mexican authorities say 27 people have died following Hurricane Otis's destructive landfall on the country's Pacific coast. The Category 5 hurricane hit tens of thousands of homes, and officials say the destruction was so massive that no power line remained standing where the storm impacted a city in Mexico. Streets are still covered under feet of mud and floodwaters.
Back here in mid-Missouri, we have seen several chances of rain over the last few days, but we're also going to see a slight warming trend into the end of your next week as well.
All right, thank you, Kesley. Coming up, how Columbia College pulled out all the stops today to celebrate diversity.
But first, there's a look at your lottery numbers. Good luck. A Boone County judge dismissed a lawsuit over naming rights for Rockbridge High School's football field. The judge ruled yesterday the plaintiff did not have legal standing to bring the suit. It was brought by Columbia businessman Wayne Sells, after whom the field was named from 2006 to 2020. The school district removed Sells' name from the field after a controversial social media post.
Students, staff, and faculty at Columbia College took a break from classes today to celebrate diversity. The university hosted a series of events and programs centered around diversity, equity, and inclusion. Guests heard live music and tasted international cuisine. Performances from hip-hop artist Nick Danger and dancer Mikese Scott kept the party moving. One student says this event brought everyone together.
I hope people understand and learn about different cultures and what it means to be in that country and what traditions they uphold and they value so much. So
Columbia College's Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion fully funded this event. It hopes to bring the celebration back next fall and for years to come.
Well, could Mizzou soccer close out their season with a rare win? And how is Mizzou football using the bye week to improve? I'll answer both of those questions next.
Temperatures starting off tomorrow morning. We'll see those temperatures into the middle 60s by tomorrow morning, reaching near 70 degrees late morning. Although temperatures start to take a dive as we head throughout the rest of your afternoon and evening hours. Most of the day will be spent towards the 50s. Few light chances for rain, more widespread chance for rain later this weekend. Drastically cooler temperatures, although we are going to start seeing more dry time by the beginning of next week.
Ooh. And as our story said tonight, we really need that rain.
Yes, we do.
Desperately, in fact.
Yes.
Okay, thanks, Kesley. We'll see you back here tomorrow.